Hey y'all, it's Val, and I am working in my Hobonichi weeks. Last video I showed you all what I was planning on doing for that with art journaling and note taking, portions from books, quotes, random little short stories I'm writing or something like that. So this week I started reading a book that I've really found interesting, and I wanted to maybe do something different by sharing with you just little portions out of the book. So maybe we can do that and see, how it resonates. And then I'll list, more info below. But hope you enjoy. There's nothing holding you back in life more than yourself. If there's an ongoing gap between where you are and where you want to be, and your efforts to close it are consistently met with your own resistance, pain, and discomfort, self-sabotage is almost always at work. On the surface, it appears to be a product of self-hatred, low confidence, or a lack of willpower. But in reality, self-sabotage is simply the presence of an unconscious need that is being fulfilled by the self-sabotaging behavior. To overcome this, we must go through a process of deep psychological excavation. We must pinpoint the traumatic event, release unprocessed emotions, find healthier ways to meet our needs, reinvent our self-image, and develop principles such as emotional intelligence and resilience. It is no small task, and yet it is the work that all of us must do at one point or another. It's not always obvious at the onset. For many people, their fears and attachments are often very much just symptoms of deeper issues for which they do not have any better way to cope. So you guys, this is Val again. Self-sabotage is going to be reflected in a coping mechanism coming from irrational fear, or even like unconscious or negative associations. So those are the parts I'll just get into right now. Self-sabotage is what happens when we refuse to consciously meet our innermost needs, often because we do not believe we're capable of handling them. Sometimes we sabotage our relationships because what we really want is to find ourselves, though we're afraid to be alone. Sometimes we sabotage our professional successes because what we really want is to create art, even if it'll make us seem less ambitious by society's measures. Sometimes we sabotage our healing journey by psychoanalyzing our feelings because doing so ensures we avoid actually experiencing them. Sometimes we sabotage our self-talk because if we believed in ourselves, we'd feel free to get back out in the world and take risks, and that would leave us vulnerable. In the end, self-sabotage is very often just a maladaptive coping mechanism, a way we give ourselves what is needed without actually having to address what that need is. But like any coping mechanism, it's just that, a way to cope. It's not an answer, it's not a solution, and it does not ever truly solve the problem. We're merely numbing our desires and giving ourselves a little taste of temporary relief. Sometimes our most sabotaging behaviors are really the result of long-held and unexamined fears that we have about the world and ourselves. Perhaps it's the idea that you're unintelligent, unattractive, or disliked. Perhaps it's the idea of losing a job, taking an elevator, or committing to a relationship. In other cases, it can be more abstract, such as the concept of someone coming to get you, violating your boundaries, you getting caught, or being wrongly accused. These beliefs become attachments over time. For most people, the abstract fear is really a representation of a legitimate fear. Because it would be too scary to actually dwell on the real fear, we project those feelings onto issues or circumstances that are less likely to occur. If the situation has an extremely low likelihood of becoming a reality, it therefore becomes a safe thing to worry about, because subconsciously we already know it isn't going to happen. Therefore, we have an avenue to express our feelings without actually endangering ourselves. If you were aware of the real issue, you could begin working to resolve it perhaps by identifying the ways that you're giving up your power or being too passive. However, if you aren't aware of the real problem, you'll continue to spend your time trying to convince yourself not to be triggered and anxious while you're doing that thing. And it only gets worse. If you try to fix the problem on the surface, you'll always come up against a wall. That's because you're trying to rip off a Band-Aid before you have a strategy to heal the wound. Self-sabotage is also one of the first signs that your inner narrative is outdated, limiting, or simply incorrect. Your life is defined not only about what you think about it, but also what you think of yourself. Your self-concept is an idea that you have spent your whole life building. It was created by piecing together inputs and influences from those around you, what your parents believed, what your peers thought, what became self-evident through personal experience, and so on. Your self-image is difficult to adjust because your brain's confirmation bias works to affirm your pre-existing beliefs about yourself. When we self-sabotage, it's often because we have a negative association between achieving the goal we aspire to and being the kind of person who has or does that thing. Your anxiety around the issue that you're self-sabotaging is usually a reflection of your limiting belief. In order to reconcile this, you have to begin to challenge these pre-existing ideas and then adopt new ones. Once you begin to really question and observe these pre-existing beliefs, you begin to see how warped and illogical they were all along, not to mention distinctly holding you back from your ultimate potential. So yes, that's it for this week. I definitely have more content. I had comments too, but more content coming. I definitely really want you to think about limiting beliefs when it comes into expression, self-expression through art. And I just want you to know you've got a safe space when you're able to take your journal and work there. So think about that. The quote that I was putting here was one from Aristotle. It's the aim of art is not to represent the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance. So that's really personal for me because I am seeing how I've got so many things on the inside that are coming out, and sometimes they're not so cute, other times they're beautiful, but working to accept them.